Hey guys, it's Taylor Brooks here. I am going to show you how to solve one of the biggest problems that usually happens to people who are working on photographs at home, photographs for friends, even professional photographers. I'm sure you've had photographs that look just like this. You've got a beautiful girl, but what's the problem? The problem is all of this peripheral hair around here. Now, the geniuses at Apple and Adobe have never really come up with a good way to fix this. Usually what they suggest is that you use these programs like uh, spot healing, brush tool, and to go into all this sort of lighten, darken sort of thing. And this can take hours and hours and hours, and still it's going to leave little artifacts. So I'm going to show you right now how to fix this super fast, super easy, and you're going to blow away your friends. In fact, I keep this a secret and maybe even make a little extra money on the side. Okay, here's what we want to do. Whenever you are monkeying around with any sort of image, just to be safe, you're going to always duplicate that layer. So we're going to make a copy of this. And you can name it something if you want to. I don't really care about naming it anything else, but let's just call it hairs. And that way we know which section that we're dealing with. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this piece right now is I'm going to go over here into Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches, and I'm going to zip over here and look along the side edge. You see all this extra junk in here? Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a out of focus layer with the dust and scratches. And you can see already by looking on the screen that all of those hairs, hypothetically, in this blurry vision here, are now gone, but the girl is gone too. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it right there. I've got this set at 33 pixels. You can choose what you want, but just imagine and take a look and see, okay, where the hairs are gone. So we're going to raise this up a little bit to about 33. I like that. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Alt, and we're going to go over here. Oh, wait, it's making dust and scratches layer. Let me give it a second. Go over here, we're going to hit Alt, and we're going to create a mask layer right down here on the bottom. I'm going to push this little square button, kind of looks like a camera, and now it is all gone. Now, a lot of people, what they like to do at this point is they like to add a noise section to the filter before they paint through. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sort of in a way erasing or moving through this mask down to the out of focus version. And as we move through that or erase through to that, that will give the illusion that we've erased all these hairs, but the naked eye cannot tell that at all. We're going to go over here now, and we're just going to pull off a section of this because we don't want it to be really obvious that we did it, so we're going to create some noise. Now what I'm going to do is I've created a box there with my lasso there, my square box lasso, and I'm going to hit Control I, and that creates a little box. See the little box over here? Now we're going to zoom in, and we're going to go over to this box here. You're going to see that that box is all smooth, but meanwhile we've got this background that is all noisy. So we have to add noise so that's not so obvious that we did a little sneaky work here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add noise. Go over here to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and oops, I always make this mistake. Make sure when you do this that you do it on the girl's picture face. There we go. See? Because we want it to go on the picture. We don't want it to go on the mask. So we did it on the girl right here on the picture of the girl. We're going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. See, nobody's perfect. And you can see that I've got a pretty decent setting in there that matches it pretty closely. I'm going to go into Gaussian Blur here, and you can see it's pretty close. The naked eye is not going to be able to tell the difference as long as we've added a little bit of noise when we erase on through. It's going to look pretty close. So I have this setting at 2.45. I think 2.45 was actually pretty nice. Let's go back and type it in 2.45, and that's in there. We're going to hit OK. All right. Now, we're going to go back over to the mask layer. I'm going to click on that. You're going to see that it turns black by hitting the Alt button, and we're going to be able to see, oops, Control Z. we're going to hit that black layer. And as we hit that black layer, we're going to hit Alt, and then I can see the black layer. We're going to put another box around it by hitting this rectangular marquee tool. We're just going to go ahead and make a box around that. We're going to put on a simple brush tool, which is right here. We hit the brush. We're going to turn this black, and we're going to paint this in completely black so we don't have a big hole where that white spot used to be. We use that white spot, as you remember, to create the noise. Now I'm going to hit Control D, which means for deselect. All right, we're going to go back to the picture of the girl now, where we've got this beautiful mask, and all we need to do now is paint with white, because if we paint with white, you can remember on a mask will sort of just draw or create essentially a hole, and that hole, oops, got to remember to do it on the mask. Yes, there we go. We're going that hole is going to essentially paint on through. There you go. Oops. Oh, let's go back a second. Now, if you make this mistake, sometimes if you do something wrong, it will always show up here as a mistake. So we're going to go back here. You can see I started with this brush tool over here, and we're just going to hit delete and go back up to the state here in the history. I always recommend that when you use the history tab, you make sure that you go into your preferences here and you give yourself at least 200 history states, because that way you can go very, very far back. A lot of people don't change this, and when you do change the history states, see here, mine's not even very high. It should be at 200. So make sure you have about 200 history states, because that's going to allow you to go back in time very, very far. Okay, so now what I said, as I mentioned before, we're going to go ahead and essentially paint on through. And look, as I just use white very broadly, we've got it taking off all of this hair. If I zoom out by hitting Control and the minus tab, you can see how easily this works. I just have a white brush. I'm painting onto the mask section here. See how it's creating holes? White means that it's creating holes, and it's going down to that out of blur section there. And look at how nice, out of focus section rather. Look at that. I'm painting directly on through, and I am just cleaning up this picture in 5 seconds flat. Look at that. I'm just going, let's go back, hit Control Z. We're going to go back a little bit. See, if you just get out of control, you do too fast. Just come along here. And as you can see now, there's a nice clean edge. She has no peripheral hairs. And if you go to even some of the best photographers online, there's a guy named Paul Smith. Sorry, Paul, but even Paul, who charges $800 or $900 to photograph women and other people, not just women, he doesn't even do this on his $900 and $1,000 jobs. And no matter where you go in this picture, I'm going to hit Control Plus, and I can show you that I can move around anywhere in this photograph. Let's go back. And I can show you that even with all this peripheral hair here all over her face, we can clean it all up super quickly. Now, the thing about on someone's skin that you want to be careful about is you don't want to race too far through, because that puts her really way too far out of focus. So what we're going to do is go back to brush by hitting B. I suggest you learn all these quick commands. They're all pretty logical. B is for brush, W is for wand, and so forth. Okay, so I'm just going to change the opacity and I'm going to pull it down about 30–40% here. And look, I can go ahead and erase on through and smooth out all of those hairs. And if I want to, if I'm a little concerned about her skin, I can even turn up the opacity a little bit. Look at that, it's 64. Now look at that. If I just do that, look at that. I'm smoothing out her skin really nicely and quickly. And it's not crazy. You can still see a little bit of detail. But look how smooth and beautiful she's coming out. There you go. All right, now, how long did I spend on this? I don't even think I spent 5 minutes on this. And here I am zipping on through this big pile of messy hair. Okay, look at that. Nice and smooth all the way through. That's a perfectly fixed up shot I highly recommend that you get yourself a nice color correction program. But in general, that girl is completely smoothed out. If we go in really close, you'll even see that, look, the background looks pretty nice. There's a little bit of grain in that, which is good. It takes away this issue of feeling like we did too much work. The other thing that I like to do sometimes, especially with hair, is if you want hair to look really smooth or look really shiny, what you can do is, as long as you're already in this setting with the mask, is you can, once again, use your brush tool. You're in white, and I'm going to go ahead and change this opacity down to something really low, about 20%. 20% seems to be the cutoff as to really making drastic, or maybe even bring it down a little bit more, drastic changes. But if you run this along shiny sections of the hair, it's going to really soften it and gloss it up really nicely. See, just find any of these bright sections in here, and that gives it a real glossy, beautiful look, but it takes out that sort of stringy look. Now, all hair, no matter how conditioned, beautiful, wonderful, whatever conditioner they're using, cameras have such strong focus nowadays that all hair is going to look a little bit stringy. There's just no way around it. But if we run our softening over it like this, essentially, like I said, what we're doing is we're just erasing down to sort of an out of focus layer. But as we do that, if we go lightly with it, it creates this really beautiful glossy look to her hair. And you can see that photograph looks fantastic. You could smooth out her skin a little bit with this as well too. And then what I like to do, which is a good trick for Photoshop, is come in here with the sharpening tool right here. And what we do is we add that to the eyes. Actually, we don't want to do that yet. In fact, that's a good point. Okay, Taylor? Yes. All right, talking to myself. We're going to go ahead and flatten that image so we're not working on all these additional layers. Flattening means we're going to take all those slices of that sandwich and crush them all together so that we have one perfect image. Now we're going to go into our sharpening tool and watch. Oh, got to make sure that our sharpening is sharp. Okay, there we go. So now we are sharpening that eye. So when you sharpen eyes, what it does is it kind of hides the fact that you went in and you smoothed other things. You want to do this around the lips. Oop, phone's going off. Sorry, I'm teaching a tutorial. And we're going to go ahead and do that around the edges of her mouth. Do it around her eyes again. Eyebrows are great for doing this, irises and so forth. Sharpen this in, sharpen in the nostril, which is also, again, a great trick. So now as we look at this photograph, because I have sharpened in different areas, what that does is it hides the fact that we have come in and softened parts of it. See, I'm going to do it in a little bit of this hair detail. In general, the simplest rule for fixing photographs is whatever's dark, you want to make darker or more severe and sharper. And whatever's light, you want to make it look softer. That gives you kind of a 3D sort of feel, and that pops the whole image right out. Okay, let's take a look at her. Elizabeth looks excellent. And look at the sharpness in those eyes. Extremely outstanding. Okay, so this has been a tutorial on how to get all those atmosphere hairs out of your photographs and look like a pro. Thanks a lot. This is Taylor Brooks. Bye-bye.